'Tis the season. I ain't talking about Christmas or holiday season. It's ban list season. Let's talk about it. Cue the intro. What is up, my lovely D.D.D fam? It's your boy Drip back with another video. In today's video, we have another discussion. Let me fix my mic. We got a discussion, so let's talk about it. We got the ban list. Now, ban list videos are always like skeptical. Make people it like splits the entire community more than almost anything else probably does, unless you're a bird shit player. Can't say Mystic Mind because it's gone. But I can say Birdship Player, aka Flunderies. Ban list and Flunderies is the only thing that will separate the community more than anything. Unless maybe you're a stun player or an anti-meta, then yeah. Anyways, let's get into what the topic is of the day. And today is the ban list. One thing I like to say real quick is if you're new around here, hit the subscribe button and don't be like the 70-some% of you all who are not subscribed. All returning members but not subscribed, stop slack and hit the subscribe button, bell notification so you never miss an upload. We do all kinds of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff around here. Deck profiles, vlogs, live streams, discussions, everything you name it, we do it around here. While you're at it, check out the description for the Patreon. There are other ways to support me, whether it's Patreon, Discord, or all that. Social media is down below as well. I love you so much for checking it out. But another thing I want to say real quick before we get into this is all a prediction list and a copium list, what I want to happen. So copium / wish list, whatever you want it to be. But one thing I will say is I'm not crucifying any deck on this list. I am just hitting consistency hits, whether it's for the good or for the bad. I'm not out here just wiping out Cashier because the one guy that you have at your locals won't stop winning because he's running Cashier. That's not me. I'm not doing that. So if you're here wanting me to badmouth Cashier or Runic just because you're having bad experiences with it, I'm not doing that. Now, I am touching those decks, but I'm not killing the decks with my list and what I think would be the best list that Konami could give us. But starting off with the ban section, I have a couple of cards because these cards are being very potent and they need to be touched and need to be hit in order to try to level the playing field and get rid of the potency and annoyance that they provide. And that is starting off with Branded Expulsion. Branded Expulsion needs to go for obvious reasons. Even without the Raw's Disciple or the Gimmick Puppet Lock, Branded Expulsion providing a huge interruption, whether it be with Fauna Balbaz or getting basically a +2 on your opponent's turn, is very frustrating because obviously decks that like to play on your opponent's turn a lot don't need to be in this kind of game very much. They don't need to be in this game. And if they are in the game, they're never in the game very long. Look at Tier. Look at Bird Flu. All of those decks like to play on their opponent's turn. Granted, those decks are still playable today, but at some point, decks that tend to do that tend to get hit eventually at some sort, whether it be crucifying the deck or slap on the wrist with the consistency. But the Branded Expulsion is very, very potent, and it's very consistent to get to it, and that's the problem. But to carry over into my next thing, the Gimmick Puppet needs to go too. Sorry that you Gimmick Puppet players have to take collateral damage. I apologize for that. But this card has to go. I'm going to be real with you. I don't know the name of the card, but my teammate Tanner told me that even with Branded Expulsion being gone, that branded players have a new way of still Gimmick Puppeting Lock. So what's the better way to completely get rid of the degeneracy and says you cannot play than by banning both of them? Granted, you could still say that they can summon the Raw's Disciple too, because he did tell me that, but I'm not going to be out here just completely just like shitting on that lock in general and just completely taking a dump on branded, because a lot of you all, I play branded too, but a lot of you guys are going to be thinking I'm taking a giant dump on branded this list that what I'm making, but it's not really the case at all. I'm just trying to hit consistency on everything, and right now, even though branded is not really doing as much as it normally did before in previous formats, and still, in my personal opinion, one of the most, if not the most consistent deck that is currently in the tier 1, tier 1.5 category, even though its representation is down. I honestly think, no like hate to any of you guys or anybody out there, but I really think branded could be a top contender if, one, the blowout cards weren't running around in the format like D-Barrier and stuff like that, or if some of the top tier players, other than a handful, decide to actually pilot the deck. Because there are still some very top tier players out there that are piling the deck and having a lot of success with it. I just feel like if they had more representation, it would do better. But you can't not hit decks just due to representation, because a deck can be very potent and everything's a domino effect. If one deck gets hit, then everybody's going to run to the next deck. So the best thing you can do is hit both decks and try to level the playing field in all consistency, and that's exactly what I'm doing with this list. Moving on to another card that needs to be banned, and that is number 89, Mind Hacker. I play this card so nobody can try to come at me and say that this list is biased. Obviously, people who make lists are going to have a tweaked, biased opinion about it, but that's why I said before, this is a prediction video and a copium video all in one. But I really think that Mind Hacker needs to get hit. It is a very degenerate card. It's legit. You're basically playing Runic and Kashtira without having to play the Runic cards and losing your battle phase, because it's a trigger effect and it could just straight up banish everything face down. And I just dumped my entire deck in the floor. Shit. Anyways, Mind Hacker needs to get hit because it's very degenerate. And I honestly think if this card gets hit, it will dial the deck down and actually will make a lot of people lose interest in the deck. I do not think that at this moment we are not at the point where, even though Kashtira is arguably the best deck and the most represented deck, I do not think we're at the point where the deck needs to get hit as hard as it has in the OCG, because they're two different formats and two different things going on. But I do think with the Mind Hacker hit, it will dial the deck's potency down and will draw a lot of people away from it. Definitely with new stuff coming in that's going to be at full power, because we all know majority of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players like to play decks that are at full power. So that's just part of being a competitive player. It is what it is. But with Mind Hacker being gone, the deck becomes sort of more of a engine-based deck. Obviously, it can still be played in a pure state it has over in the OCG. It can still be played as a pure state here. But being able to lock 5 zones is impossible now. So because you need that in order to lock 5 zones. So I think that's the main hit that needs to happen for Kashtira. We'll talk more about Kashtira later on in the video, at the end of the video, but right now that's all I got for Kashtira. Now for this, that's all I got for the band. That's all I got for the band. Nothing else needs banned, in my personal opinion. On to the limited list. I have Runic Tip and Runic Fountain. Those are I have more on the limit list, but right now this is what I'm talking about. I'm just pairing those together because they're in the same archetype, obviously. I really think Runic Tip is like not as good and not as stupid and potent, but it's almost like Sky Striker Engage Runic Tip. It's right almost it's almost there. It's almost to that point. Because if it wasn't for the fact that you lost your battle phase with these Runic cards, Runic Tip would be as stupid as Engage. The engine is just as splashable, if not more splashable. I think it's more splashable than Sky Striker was back in 2018-2019 era. So the Runic Tip, but don't get me wrong, Runic Tip is nowhere near as stupid and as broken as Engage. But it provides so much consistency for the deck, and you can be able to just go get what you want when you want, and being able to special summon any of your Runic cards is very toxic. So like a Rhoda that do all this for you is really nasty. And then the field spell being limited to 1 makes it to where the deck itself, Runic in any version, will make it to where it's more reliable, where they have to protect the fountain, which the deck in itself is already protect fountain at all costs. But if Runic Fountain's at 1, it makes the job a lot harder because of cards like Cosmic Cyclone. And there's no, even if you destroy it, you find a way to destroy it, it makes it to where the quick play spells are not as overpowered as where you can just, granted, you can just grab it back from the graveyard, but it makes it harder to do that and makes it to where the deck cannot play as much on your turn. And like I said earlier in this video, decks that like to play on your turn never tend to really last that long unless it's like a control-based deck. Granted, this is a control-based deck, but we're out here splashing it with combo decks and mixing the two, and that just can't happen. Granted, a lot of you all that are Runic players will end up saying, well, why don't you just hit the combo part of the deck? Which the combo part of the deck could arguably be hit too, but there's nobody out here just playing Runic control. And if you are, then all power to you. But from a competitive standpoint, no one is, from a competitive standpoint, is like playing pure Runics, and it's not happening. And I know that you are going to say, well, they have new support coming out. That's fine. That's fine. Runic Tip being put to 1 and Fountain being put to 1 is not going to kill the deck. It's just going to put the deck in check and put the deck where it needs to be. The deck is still going to be stupid. The deck is still going to be splashable. The deck will probably still be splashable in a lot of decks. Definitely, if all these other decks get touched in a certain way, you'll see a lot more hybrids come out of the blue besides the Naturia Runic, Naturia Furhire, I mean not Naturia, but Runic Furhire, all of those. There will be more, or Runic Kashtira. There'll be probably more people, I know myself included. I'll probably be floating towards more of a Runic Kashtira build if Kashtira gets hit a certain type of way, definitely more than Mindhacker on the upcoming ban list. So if people already thinking of this, you have to put these decks in check in order to keep things from spiraling out of control post ban list. So, but I know I kind of talked in circles there, but obviously the main function of Runic will become protect field spell, more like more intense protect field spell, but at the same time will make your Cosmic Cyclones and stuff like that more impactful, basically. Because once you get rid of the fountain, you oversimplify the game state, and at that point, you're forcing a control-based strategy. Obviously, Runic can still play. It's just they're not going to be playing a lot on your turn. Moving on to another archetype that I think needs to get hit, only because if you touch all these other decks, it will get really out of control. Granted, this archetype took collateral damage last ban list, which arguably wasn't really collateral damage. I think it was also because with them hitting tier, they had to hit this this card, because if not, this archetype will spiral out of control, and that archetype being Sprite. And then the card I'm referencing is Elf. A lot of people say Elf got hit because of tier, which you're not wrong. But I think with tier getting crucified the way it did on the last list, even with Elf, the deck wouldn't be doing any more than it is right now. Because one, cast just says no to tier. It's anti-tier, basically. And if you left Elf alone, I think we would have floated over into another tier 0 format, because if you would have left Elf alone, I think Sprite would become the next tier 0 deck, because even without Elf, the deck is prospering and just going off and is very consistent and in all forms, whether it's the Tri Brigade, Pure, or a Live Twin, or whatever version you're running of Sprite. The deck itself is very consistent, it's very good at what it does, and it's very good at producing results. So I think Elf got hit because to prevent another tier 0 format, in my personal opinion. Granted, you can argue with me all day if you want, saying, well, Drip, one card is not going to determine whether or not the deck is tier 0, because one card is not going to make a deck tier 1, tier 0. Playing on your turn, can't target cards at points too. Shut up. But no, not only that, like I mentioned before, a lot of competitive players or high tier players like to play decks that are at full power. That's just what they like. I understand. I get where you're coming from, and I get both sides of the coin. But at the same time, that's the reason why I think the deck does not have as high like representation as it did before. But the card that I'm hitting with that is, I put Starter on there. Granted, you could argue blue here. You can argue blue. I don't want to hit Gigantic because Gigantic, they already are running slim on extra deck monsters anyways. You can argue Gigantic too, but if you hit like, because a lot of people want Gigantic hit because then it opens up the window where it's more susceptible to hand traps, whether it be nib or stuff like that. But because it'll force him to run more main deck monsters, as in more reds, more carrots, etc., etc., etc. And you can argue by hitting starter, it makes the deck less like receptive, like it makes it less where it can be it gets locked less. I can't talk fuck English. But if you put starter to 1, it makes it to where the deck is harder to get locked by level 2s because starter is one of the cards that locks them into level 2s, and then they can just splash them into other level 2 decks. Yes, I get that, but at the same time, the deck is already doing that. So if the deck is already doing that, there's no real reason to really not do that. And hitting starter stops a lot of their consistency. And on top of that, it forces them to make a serious decision in their combo to where if they limit starter the where your opponent can't open starter and then always search the smashers. For an example, so like if your opponent didn't open, if your opponent opens Sapar and they're using Jet, they have to think, well, do I want to go more interruptions here or do I want to search a starter if I didn't open it? So, like, do you want to search follow-up? Do you want to search more interruption? Decisions like that is what, my opinion, wins and loses games depending on the interaction that your opponent has, if whether they have it or not. Because if they have the blowout cards, searching the follow-up will be rewarding. Now, if they didn't open apart and they opened very well too, and you didn't have enough to stop them, but you had enough-ish follow-up, you could search the interruption, in this case being via smashers, to slow them down. It's decisions like that, along with interactions, that ties in wins and losses, along with luck and bad luck, basically, in the game. Because that's all this game is luck and skill at the same time. Skill is involved, but it's a majority of luck, in my personal opinion. But starter hitting that deck will draw the consistency back and dial the deck down, in my personal opinion. I don't think we're at the point yet where Sprint needs hit, but Drip, Sprint, and Nibble Angler combo. Yeah, it's very potent, but I don't think we're at that point yet. So starter, yeah, it's a 1. Moving on. A lot of you are going to be mad because this is not really getting representation in the top cuts above regional level events. But like I said, you have to dial other decks in if you're going to dial other decks in to prevent an explosion. And the next card that's on the limited list is MATHMECH Circular. This card promotes so much in the deck. It gives them so much advantage. They plus so hard just off of one card, to the point to where sometimes the deck can't even function if they don't have a way to it. But if you don't have a way to it, you just have bad luck, because this deck can main deck so many searchers, so many ways to get to this one card, that it's insane. So we have to dial this card back in order to keep everything in. This deck can play 3 Silent Mining, 3 Small Worlds. Some of them I've seen even run Prosperity and Desires as some form of those cards, and just to get to this one card. So we have to dial it down, because even without it, this deck can play like 14, 15, 16 plus hand traps, go second cards, board breakers, just because all he needed is this one card to go off. And that's not, one card combos don't need to be in this game. And you can argue Cashier is a 1 card combo, but they're more like a 1.5 to 2 card combo. This card's a 1 card combo. This deck's a 1 card combo. So no, Circular, gotta go to 1. I'm sorry, it's got to. Next on the list is Branded Fusion. This is the reason why a lot of you guys are probably going to think that I'm beating up on Branded. It's really not. It's just we got to hit this consistency, because even with the Branded banishment stuff going down, the deck is still stupid consistent, and it's still very good at doing what it does. Just because it gets FTK'd by Ash doesn't mean the deck is not good, and doesn't mean the deck is not consistent. So the consistency's got to go. For crying out loud, they have like 9 to 10 different ways to Branded Fusion. They could dump it and then add it back off of Branded Banishment. They have 3 branded openings to get the Aliber. They have 3 Alibers. They have 3 Allure Darknesses. They have a million different ways in there to get to the Branded Fusion. Yes, a lot of people are going to be like, well, Drip, they're not going to hit this card because it's getting an ultimate rare in the next OTS. Well, newsflash, I love you, First of all, yeah, talking to you. Second of all, go look at the previous freaking OTS packs and tell me where Konami has gave a literal fuck about hitting stuff in OTS packs. Red Reboot. Rhino Heart. The list goes on. They don't care. They don't care because they know you want the ultis anyways. So they're going to hit the damn shit anyway. So it don't matter. Yes, I would not be shocked if they didn't hit it, but I'm just saying if you want a consistency hit, this is the one. Or opening, but opening ain't going to matter because half of freaking branded players, myself included, don't give two shits about opening. The only thing we like about opening is play around Valor. So no one cares. But now we're moving on to another card. Another card that needs to get hit on the limited list, I think, is your name's right there. I'm looking at my computer screen. Zeus. Zeus needs to get hit preemptively, I think, to keep purely in check. Granted, they don't really need it, but the fact that that deck is legit gives me freaking vibes of... God, what's the name of that deck? I'll come back to it. But the fact that this deck can... Zodiac. Haha! I thought of it. It gives me Zodiac vibes, and the fact that it can just go off with one card and can do other things, but also at the same time turbo out. A fat Zeus, chunky boy Zeus is insane. And the fact that Zeus is not a hard once per turn, not even really a once per turn, so like you just keep detaching. You're over here detaching cards so fast you look like John Cena saying you can't see me. So the fact that that's the case, you need to dial that in a little bit to make it to where if Cashier doesn't auto lose to the ban list, that other decks can still rip it out or deal with one Zeus to where they can't make two Zeuses and just be like, what you gonna do now, bro? So Zeus being dialed back for the purely deck and other decks too, I think is perfectly fine. I'm shocked that this card has lasted at a limited this long. Moving on to the next card. This card should have got hit to 1 or even banned in 2018, 2019. And the fact that this card hasn't got hit yet is a problem. Don't think I've been picking on these other decks and haven't forgot about you, Dark World players, myself included, because I play Dark World. I have the entire deck, max rarity, minus the dealings. Pour one out for your boy. But anyways, SARYUJA. SARYUJAs need to go to 1. This card produces way too much advantage, and with decks that can just completely swarm, it's just free real estate, and we got to do something about that. So, with that being said, SARYUJA has got to get pimp slapped because he's over here just like a boxer, just dodging the ban list. He's been dodging it since 2019. I played this card at its peak with Chaos Thunder back in the day. So, yeah, SARYUJA, we see you, dog. Watching you. You're going to 1. Going to 1. Because with that being said, though, all jokes aside, if you put SARYUJA to 1, I think it dials in the deck a little bit. Granted, they can still do all their hand loop shenanigans and all that stuff, but it dials back the consistency, and they can't really do as much because they need that consistency cards to get them there. So I think that will dial it in a lot, my personal opinion, and make it to more balanced. Because basically, if you're going second against a Dark World player, nib doesn't even really matter most of the time. If you don't draw Droll or freaking Shifter, you're not playing, because they're just going to rip all your cards out of your hand, and it's just not fair. So, but SARYUJA, it's a 1. Now, moving on to the copium part of the ban list. So, moving on to the first copium part, the first card I have coming off the ban list to 1 or unlimited don't really matter because you only really run one anyways. And in pure, you're not going to be running it anyways because this card is mainly going to be used for a dragon strategy, and that is Galaxy House Dark Matter. That card I really think can come off the ban list. I know it gives a lot of people PTSD given dragon decks like more support off the ban list because of how Dragon Link, for an example, or Bestial and stuff like that. Dragon Link has been such a potent deck for so long. Getting its like first entry with like Chaos Thunder back in the earliest days of like 2018 or something like that. So I get it, and it just slowly progressed further, excuse me, further down the line. But I can honestly say, competitive standpoint for Galaxy House players, this card has seen its days, and it's not like in the most competitive version. Yes, you can build builds around it, but in the most competitive version, you're not going to be really running this card. I don't think. I've play tested in formats like band formats, like with my friends and stuff, that with the current support we have with Galaxy Eyes, plus using that card, implementing it, it just gets in the way, and you could have something better and that does more. But Dark Matter, I think, can come back to 1 to 3. It don't really matter. It'll probably see as much equal amount of play. Moving on to the more copium, hardcore. I think since graveyard strategies and milling strategies are long gone now, with tier being destroyed, I think it's fair to bring hardcore back, because I know there I know there's a lot of like milling Orcus. Smell what I'm cooking. But now that a lot of milling strategies are just gone, AK tier is gone. Harport can come back to 1 or 3, don't really matter. I know a lot of people will be just sprinkle it in there at 1 and see what happens, and then it'll slowly come back from there if it does. But Harp can come back to 1 and make me very happy. Sorry if I just bust your eardrums by smacking the microphone. Sorry. But anyways, Harport come back to 1, and it wouldn't really change anything. Now to the biggest copium of all. And I'm going to say this every damn ban list. And my homies know. They know, because we talk about it all the time. It's an ongoing meme. I'm the memer when it comes to this card, because he needs to come back. And that is Thunder Dragon Colossus Poppy. Oh my God. It is time for him to come back, make his return. His sentence is up. He's getting let out of prison. He's going to get out on good behavior and meet up with his boy Titan. And yeah. So, you know. But no, I think this will be another good time I think this will be the best time to release Colossus, because Copium aside, Chaos just recently got support, and Chaos has more support coming out in the new synchros. So, and I think you can mix up some juicy Bestial stuff with, I know I'm going to be working on some juicy Bestial stuff with the Bestial cards, plus other Chaos cards, the new stuff and old, that can really spice up the format. And one Colossus isn't going to really do anything. And definitely, it hasn't done nothing in the OCG really. And besides, Colossus has, and his highest peak of being overpowered, his prime is long gone. Now he's just an old vet that's talking to these young bucks like back in my day. I would freaking put 3 on the board and be like, no draw, no adding, cuz. But no, there's so many outs now. Dark Ruler, droplets. You could just draw the imperm, stuff like that. There's a bunch of different ways to completely just negate his effects now compared to there was before. So one Colossus isn't really going to do anything. It's not going to make it really that splashable, because you have to run Thunders. A lot of people are worried about the Nemesis stuff, but then again, the Nemesis stuff goes back to Chaos stuff, because you kind of have to have stuff banished in order to use it. And the only really stuff that's going to have stuff banished is, yes, you can argue maybe the Dragon Link or something like that, or other Chaos decks, which, to be fair, that's somewhat of a Chaos deck. But even then, I don't think one Colossus is going to be the root of the problem, because of all the ways out him and board breakers that we're kind of in a board breaking format anyways, with board breakers and not hand traps. So, yes, I'm not really worried about that stuff, and one Colossus isn't going to do nothing. Moving on to the last limit card I have, because this video is getting kind of long, and that is Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. This card can come back. Card hit was kind of necessary. I honestly think the card only got hit to begin with, and that's to promote Beyond the Pendulum, or whatever that the other link is. Sorry if that's not her name. I don't play Pendulum that much. I gave up Pendulum after they hit Endymion, a servant of Endymion to 1, because I actually liked the Endymion archetype, and I'm not even gonna lie, I haven't really looked back into it since Electromite, and that card got hit. So, but Electromite can come back. Pendulums aren't doing nothing. Pendulums are not going to do anything. Sorry, Triff. I love you, bro. Shouts to you, big dog. But no. Would I like to see them do something just to spice up the format? Fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I would love to see it. But I don't think it's going to do anything putting Electromite to 1. And it was at 1 before, and it didn't really do nothing. But Well, only time will tell. Now, I only have one card coming to the semi-limited because semi-limited is just meh. Sometimes semi-limited can be impactful, sometimes it's not, because sometimes it's weird depending on the card. Sometimes semi-limiting cards can make it feel like it's at 1 or 0, but sometimes with it at 2, it can make it feel like it's at 3. It just depends on the card and your luck on drawing cards. And I think MISC can come to 2. I know that sends shivers up people's spines along with a lot of PTSD, but I think I would not put it past Co-Money to put it to 2 to promote the new Dino stuff. And to be fair, it only really protects during the main phase, and a lot of cards, a lot of interactions with decks like Labyrinth and stuff like that, or even Cash can deal with them during the during the battle phase if they try to interact and stuff like that. So I really think Miz could come to 2, and it would be okay. Along with, I wouldn't put it. Do I think it will? Probably not. But will I be shocked? No, because Co-Money, sorry, not Konami, Co-Money wants to sell their Dino stuff. And if that's the case, your boy gonna be playing Dinos again. Because I ain't gonna lie, I miss Ultimate Conductor so bad, and I miss Ovi. I miss playing Dinos when Dinos is in its prime. So, but I would like to see that. But that's actually it for the list, guys. I have honorable mentions. I'm gonna read them off to you. You got Allure of Darkness, Fenrir, Unicorn, Blue, Raysoth, and the Gates of the Dark World, the Dark World Gates. Those cards are honorable mentions, along with whatchamacallit, Cyberstein. Those cards are honorable mentions they could potentially get hit or should get hit. But only time will tell. I just try to put the honorable mentions away down at the bottom so I can just speed through them to keep this video as short as possible. But with that being said, guys, let me know in the comment section down below. Again, this is just my opinion. Don't get all heated in the comment section. This is just my opinion. Let me know in the comment sections down below what you guys think. And shout outs to the Patreon group. I love you guys for going the extra mile to support me even more. I love you guys for it. But with that being said, it's your boy Brennan, a.k.a. Drip. Signing out till next time. Peace. Good dueling, my guys.